Hey there, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Confronting Evil, the penultimate episode for Season 2. Tonight, Seth and Mackenzie may find what they're looking for, and maybe a whole lot more. So, get ready as we inch closer to the conclusion. It's time for Confronting Evil.
The night was dark, and though the roads were vacant of other cars, Honey's eyes remained glued to the road. Thick, overcast sky and subsequent lack of moonlight, accompanied by light rain, made visibility poor at best. But Honey knew that she had to get where she was going as fast as she could before what she saw in a vision of the future, came to pass. She had to stop it.
And you're sure it's happening there? Seems an odd choice for...
Chad Harville spoke from inside the phone that was pressed to Honey's ear.
Yes, goddammit, I'm sure. You need to get on the horn with them and hope it's not too late. I'm nearly there now,
Honey proclaimed in response.
All right, just try and explain it to me one more time once I get there as well. Maybe a little slower,
Chad said. But as Honey rounded the corner of the dark bend up ahead, her headlights graced a lump of dark blue and gray in the road, and moments later saw it as a man with trimmed brown hair. Honey slammed on her brakes with ample distance before she was in danger of hitting him, but was thankful she saw him in time. She couldn't hear the words coming from the man's mouth from inside the car, but he was obviously in distress.
Listen, Chad, do what I told you. There's someone laying in the road. Looks like they were hit by a car. I gotta go. They need my help. Call Huck now,
Honey demanded into the phone before hanging up and exiting the vehicle.
Hello, sir? What happened? Can you talk? Don't try to move.
Honey released a torrent of questions and assistive statements as she approached the man. His gray hoodie was soaked with both rainwater and blood, and his leg appeared to be broken and twisted to the side. But when he wheezed the word, "Help," she knew he was at least conscious. Honey ran over to the broken man, leaning in and doing her best to assess his condition. She was no doctor, but she knew enough to help keep him stable until help arrived.
I'm gonna get you help. Don't move, okay?
She asked, placing a hand very gently on his, and took her phone back out with her other hand. However, Honey didn't get a chance to dial. In an instant, the man gripped her hand so tightly he nearly broke her fingers, and in the next, he yanked her in closer. Honey's eyes grew wide as the grotesque man reached out with his other hand and extended index finger, tipped with a long, gleaming white claw. She tried to pull away, but it was no use. The man was far too strong, and when she saw one of his eyes begin to glow a bright red, above a sinister and toothy grin, she didn't need to be psychic. She already knew her fate. Much of the Northeast was still fast asleep, at least in the area that Seth and Mackenzie were barreling through. The road was desolate. Neither had seen another vehicle for miles, and the brightening sky of a looming sunlit horizon helped to aid both twins with a hastening feeling. Whatever was happening, it was happening now, and neither of them knew if they'd make it there in time for whatever it was that they needed to stop. They had no idea what they were walking into, and neither Seth nor Mackenzie knew if some old book and old-fashioned willpower would be enough.
So, did Huck see anything else?
Seth asked, exhausted from lack of sleep, but energized with anticipation and ominous dread.
Nope. Just that he had got a call from Chad. telling him and us to meet him where our house used to be.
Yeah, but we've been hanging our hats at Huck's old camper house, which was parked right there. Doesn't he know anything about what's going on? I mean, he's got the most powerful member of our team with him.
Huck's been out of town following up leads, looking for cash. Same as us. It would have been easier to just head to Halstead, like the Quill said, but that red-headed bitch must have moved him before we got there. He's on his way to where our house was now. But we're closer than him and Chad. Honey should be there by now, too. But yeah, I agree. I'd sure like that blue-eyed powerhouse with us also.
Still can't reach her?
Honey? No. Phone just keeps going right to voicemail. She's not responding to my texts.
Wait, how did you just happen to have her number again?
She gave it to me, dweeb. How else do you think I got it? And man, do I got it.
Mackenzie replied, looking over at her brother and finishing her sentence with a wink.
My God, you are such an ass. And if she gave you her number, why didn't she call or text you with all of this?
Because, Seth, I never actually used the number. She just gave it to me. Though, when this is all over with, I think I probably will. I could use a good romp. And that honey's got one hell of a...
Whoa, Mackenzie. If you like her that much, why haven't you called her?
Seth asked, interrupting his sister.
Same as Huck, Seth. When the hell have either of us had any real time to enjoy the finer things in life?
Mackenzie replied with an insinuating tone.
Ugh, who the hell am I kidding? You don't even know what I'm talking about. Got your head so far up a book, probably couldn't tell where the pages end and the woman begins.
Mackenzie picked at her brother with a snicker.
Hey, that's not true. I just don't brag about my conquests all the time like you do. Some of us have a little more class.
Oh yeah? When?
Well, it wasn't last summer. I was a little down, you know? Over losing my twin sister. Ass. But the summer before... Remember Locust Lake? That group of kids?
Wait, Elena? You hooked up with Elena? Oh my god, bro. The way that girl liked to party, I don't think you should brag about that one.
That's not fair. She was a really great person when she's sober. You just didn't get to see much of that. And besides, no one pounds back beer like you do. Except maybe Huck.
A really great person, huh? Well, I'll say this, dweeb. You never cease to amaze.
Thanks. Hey!
Seth said, catching the backhanded comment a moment later. The twins talked and argued as Mackenzie pulled off the long route of a back road and into familiar territory, only a few miles from their mother's land. The closer they got, mile by mile, the twins got quieter and quieter with anticipation, both trying to be hopeful that Honey's vision, whatever it was, came soon enough to prevent whatever it was that she saw, and also dreading that, despite the early morning hour, that it was already too late. It wasn't long after that the Torino rolled into place where the twins liked to park her. In the driveway ahead of them was an old pickup truck, but it wasn't Huck's, and his camper was nowhere in sight.
That's gotta be Chad, right?
Mackenzie asked, scanning the area.
Yeah, he must have beaten us here. I don't see Honey's SUV anywhere. She should have been here by now.
Seth replied, confirming Mackenzie's assumption.
Well, maybe she ended up riding in with Chad after all. Or maybe he knows something. Come on, let's go check it out.
Seth and Mackenzie stepped out from the vehicle and shut the doors behind them. The area seemed surreal and quiet, and Seth was just about to start calling out for Chad, assuming that he was inside the barn, as it was the only standing structure at the moment. Huck's camper being gone, but before he could, Chad Harville strolled out from behind it and walked directly towards the twins, having heard them pull in.
Damn, what took you guys so long?
Chad asked them as he approached.
Us? How the hell did you beat us here?
Me? I was doing like 90 down the highway the whole time. Figured no cops were gonna be out, and there was this whole sense of urgency thing. I knew you guys would be doing the same to get here. I didn't want to make you wait.
Yeah, I mean, we drove fast, but we took the back roads.
Well, that seems a little counterintuitive. Anyone heard from Honey?
Chad asked, confused about Honey's whereabouts as well.
No, we were hoping you could tell us. She isn't responding to my texts or phone calls either.
Wait, how'd you get her number?
Just don't ask. But no, we were hoping you would know where she is, or maybe even tell us a bit more about what's going on.
Said, getting the conversation back on track.
Yeah, I don't know. Last I spoke to her, she was almost here. She should have been waiting here most of the night for us,
Chad explained.
Okay, well, do you know more about what she saw in this vision of hers?
Yeah, and it's not good. Funny thing is, it fits exactly into what I think is going on as well. This thing goes a lot bigger and deeper than you might think. All I know right now is that your father, there's a reason this thing has targeted you, and it all goes back to...
Chad was abruptly cut off, shocking both Seth and Mackenzie as they watched him gag and vomit uncontrollably.
Chad, are you okay? What's wrong?
Mackenzie asked, concerned and confused. Chad managed to wheeze out in between gasps for air, just before his skull imploded inwards, crushing the brain inside, forcing his eyes out of their sockets, each dangling by the remaining optic nerve.
What? What the fuck? Chad!
Seth screamed, running over to their friend, confused by what happened, still reeling from the sight and desperate for a chance to do something to help him, but it was far, far too late. Chad was dead before his body even hit the ground, with a wet thud. As the twins gasped and approached their friend in a futile attempt for aid, they caught sight of someone behind him, and now in front of them, at a distance of about 30 feet away, near to the forest tree line, revealed when Chad's body had fallen to the ground in a heap. It was a woman, slender, fairly young, but older than Seth and Mackenzie, and her hair was a striking, fiery red. Her gaze did not move, her feet did not flinch, even when the twins had noticed her. Instead, the woman stared on with an unwavering menace set within her gaze.
That's the girl that Huck told us about, and the one who stole the quill,
Mackenzie said, eyeballing the woman's flamboyant orange and royal purple string-strapped dress.
It sure is. But what's she doing here?
Seth asked.
You are the infamous Beretta twins. Seeing as I have you at a disadvantage, my name is...
Ariadne, right? Yeah. Huck told us all about you.
You are correct. Though, I've gone by many names over the years.
Over the years? What are you, like 30? My guess is 30s.
Actually, I'm 347 years old, and some change.
What? Then you're not human.
No, I'm plenty human. I'm what some of you would call a witch, but my powers are much greater than that. I'm more than just a witch. Though, I suppose with that in mind, there is no real name for what I am.
Well, Maleficent, Blair, Ariadne, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, I really don't care. Where's Cash?
Mackenzie demanded at Ariadne.
Well, he'll be alone shortly, I'd imagine.
What do you mean by that?
Ariadne opened her mouth to reply, enjoying the conversation the way a cat enjoys playing with its prey, but she was interrupted by a large RV rolling down the driveway and into place next to the Torino.
Ah, it's time to begin,
she said with a grin. Huck and Blue Eye stepped out from the RV and most quickly joined Seth and Mackenzie at their sides.
That's her. That's the bitch who kidnapped Cash.
Huck yelled, moving faster with each step.
Oh, really? Well, let me take care of this.
Blue Eye said, raising his arm with the distal end targeted at Ariadne.
Really? You can't stop me. Not the way you are right now.
She said, and responded by lifting her own arm directed back at the blue-eyed man, who was then flung backwards by some invisible force and tossed to the dirt.
What the... I don't...
He began to speak as he struggled to an upright position. However, he was cut off when he was flung through the air again, this time hitting his head on a large, decorative granite boulder. His body lay there, unmoving, slumped on the ground, his forehead trickling red. Seth and Mackenzie stared in amazement, taken aback by the power that Ariadne must hold, and scrambled to think up their next move. Huck never flinched, never looked back, and determinedly raced directly at the red-haired woman in the purple dress trimmed with orange. But as he approached, Ariadne simply threw up her hand once again, protecting herself and causing Huck to basically run straight into an invisible wall, knocking him backwards onto his ass. Huck scrambled to his feet and stood beside Seth and Mackenzie, all three of them slowly backing away from a threat they had no idea how to handle.
I don't think so, you bitch.
A woman's voice spoke from behind Ariadne, causing her to turn, and when she did, it allowed the rest of the group to see who it was.
Honey? Honey, thank God. We were beginning to think the worst.
Mackenzie yelled, but Honey didn't even acknowledge her. Instead, she raised a hand of her own, snapped her fingers, and released a shockwave of power that knocked Ariadne into the air, past the twins, landing hard behind them about halfway down the driveway.
Hurry up, we don't have much time.
Honey yelled, causing Huck, Mackenzie, and Seth to rush to her side.
What's going on? What does she want?
Seth asked.
Is there any way to stop her?
Mackenzie inquired further.
We can't leave that blue-eyed guy back there. We got to.
Huck started, but was interrupted by Honey.
There's no time, quickly. If we get there in time, she'll be powerless.
Honey responded.
Get where?
Seth asked, but Honey said nothing, only leading them all swiftly through the woods, closer to where their home once stood on what was now the far end of a field.
We're almost there.
Honey insisted, prompting the group to simply hold their questions for now. And soon, Honey slowed to a stop, and thus so did the rest of them. However, where they stood was now a large hole in the ground, and no one could see what was inside until someone walked up to the edge and peered in. All three of them did, all curious and still without answers. However, each was greeted with the sight of a bloody heap, a mangled, fleshy mess that none of them could discern at first, but all eventually realized the same thing at once.
Is that a skinned person?
I do believe it is.
What is this, honey? I don't understand.
Mackenzie turned and asked the girl that had led them here, but behind her approached the one they had been running from, the red-haired, flamboyant, ageless beauty, Ariadne.
Look out!
Mackenzie yelled, taking 2 steps to run to Honey's aid, but stopped when she saw her turn, smiling and greeting Ariadne as if they were friends.
Wait. What?
What the hell is going on?
That
was too easy, Honey said, her voice growing garbled and almost ethereal.
Who the hell are you?
Huck asked angeredly. Honey slowly turned to look at them, her grin growing wider and wider, and one of her eyes glowing a brilliant red.
You already know the answer to that, fools.
She smiled further, her voice completely altered to something else now, and as she began to unzip her skin with one elongated fingernail, they already knew what it was. They recognized that voice as they'd heard it before.
You. But if you're you, where's Honey?
Mackenzie asked, and the ebon-toothed creature before her simply smiled and pointed, causing both her and Seth to look behind them and into the pit at the skinless corpse inside.
No. No!
Mackenzie bargained, hurt by the loss of someone she truly cared about, and at the thought of the thing that had done all that it had to her, standing right before them all. Mackenzie turned and looked back at the thing, body trembling, but eyes fierce.
No words left. There's no need to fear what you can't escape.
The thing growled. Seth stepped in front of his sister while Huck moved towards the menace with one red eye, but in that same moment, Ariadne lifted both hands into their direction and clenched her fists tight, subsequently raising the trio into the air just in front of the pit behind them.
Now, it's time. Go get with them.
The creature turned and spoke to Ariadne, who ventured off to retrieve the other half of himself.
No, you can't!
Seth struggled to say.
I can and will. You should have learned that by now. Everything you've done has been exactly what I wanted you to do. And now all the pieces have come together, here where the portal was first opened.
Red-Eye replied with a snarl. The three of them tried their hardest to move and free themselves from whatever invisible force held them at bay, but it was too late. From behind the monster and approaching him with moderate speed was Ariadne, driving both the unconscious bodies of Blue-Eye and Cash, smiling with glee and obviously inhumanly strong.
No, Cash!
Huck yelled, but the force around him tightened and caused him to stop talking. However, what a lot of them didn't notice or realize was the being hiding in the trees nearby, too far away to be noticed, but close enough to do what he needed to do. Kramer eyed Seth and smirked to himself. There was a darkness in the boy, the sliver of something ancient, dark, and powerful, a remnant of the force that entered his chest, his soul, when he had freed his sister at the lake all those months ago. Kramer knew that Seth was struggling with his inner demons, and he knew why. But instead of saying anything, Kramer waited for this moment in particular. The boy was his last chance. The demon's eyes lit up white with an unknown power, and with it, he used it on Seth from a distance, agitating and adding to that small spark of darkness within him, swelling it like waterlogged wood. And a moment later, Seth struggled against his bonds, wanting to save everyone, the same as everyone else, and when he did, his hands seemed to penetrate his invisible bindings, instantly releasing him from them as they dissipated.
What? How did you do that?
Ariadne asked in shock and confusion.
The boy must have gotten his powers when he released his twin at the tainted Locust Lake.
Red-Eye revealed.
Wait, what? You said it was the punch bowl.
Mackenzie struggled at Seth.
Listen, we'll talk about this later.
Seth demanded, grabbing both a floating Mackenzie and Huck each by the ankle, pulling on them and yanking them free as well. Red-Eye yelled.
Get them now.
He commanded, and although Ariadne followed him, her magic didn't seem to work on Seth anymore, leaving her hesitant and unsure. Mackenzie, Seth, and Huck ran for the Torino,
hoping to come back for Cash and Blue Eye and free them from imprisonment, intending to flee from Ariadne, who was still out of sight around the corner, but fast approaching. Mackenzie opened the door, while the rest scrambled around the car. But the sound of someone approaching halted their movements and got their attention. Someone was coming down the driveway toward them. They drove an old black pickup truck that seemed familiar with every pothole and rut of the driveway. When the truck parked beside them, they understood why. The passenger side window rolled down, and the woman inside leaned over to speak.
Really? What's going on now? What's with you two?
Seth and Mackenzie stuttered and searched for words in which to speak. The person before them intimidated them more than any monsters could, and though they knew she'd likely be mad, they couldn't have been happier to see her.
What are you doing here?
Shyloh looked at her children, ready to reply, until she saw the red-haired pursuer round the corner, menacingly looking at her children. Shyloh grabbed what she needed and got out of the truck. Nobody was going to hurt her children.
So, it seems that the stage is set and all the major players are on the scene. Will the combined power of good finally get the upper hand on darkness? You won't have to wait too long for the exciting conclusion to find out as Confronting Evil returns next month.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.